Okay, number 19 is glycemic index, which we discussed a little bit earlier, but it's not listed on the food label, and I gave you a chart in one of the outlines, and it's just a measure of how much food affects your blood sugar. So we said we want our blood sugar to be flowing and calm and steady as opposed to spikes, right? When we have spikes, that's not good. So some examples of high glycemic index foods are sugar, flour, rice, bananas, grapes, cherries, watermelon, raisins, rice and corn cakes, corn cereals. These are foods that have a high glycemic index. So if you're prone to either binges or cravings or emotional eating, these are foods that you want to stay away from. Like, you would be much safer having an extra piece of chicken. I know nobody wants that when they're emotional eating, but you would be safer with that than with any of these foods that are just going to spike your blood sugar and make you crave more. And if you are going to have those, then do them in the evening, like I said, as a treat. Okay, so that was, hold on, that was 19. Oh, so maybe it's 19 and not 21. 1 second. Okay, so I think those were all the tips. Now, what I'd like to go over is the sabotaging thoughts to say goodbye to. Okay. So without realizing, we have these automatic sabotaging thoughts that we put in our own head. And thoughts are very powerful. You know how thoughts become words, words become actions, and then it becomes just like routine of what we do. So when I say these things, you might think like, oh, wow, are you in my head? Like, that's what I think. So it's because I am in your head, because I hear this all the time from women when they tell me what they were thinking, okay? So the first one, and the most common one, is I cheated. I may as well restart tomorrow or Monday or after Pesach or whatever. Like, forget it. I messed up already tonight, or I messed up this weekend, okay? So before I tell you how to fight that thought, I just want to give you an analogy, of course. Analogy again is, you're driving on a highway, right? And you miss an exit. You took a wrong turn or you miss an exit. So do you tell yourself, like, let me just keep going until tomorrow? Like, whatever, I'll just keep going until tomorrow, or until Pesach. I mean, after Pesach, or until Monday. Of course not. You reroute at the next possible potential turn, and you reroute and you go back to the way you're supposed to go. Or another example, you come home with a case of eggs, a dozen of eggs, and you open it and one egg is cracked. So you just go cracking the other 11, or you throw out that egg and move on. You have 11 perfectly good eggs to use, right? Okay, one more analogy, like you crack your cell phone screen, right? And you just go cracking the rest of the screen, or you just live with it probably for a long time until it really bothers you, right? You don't go cracking the rest of your screen. So if you see, we don't do this with anything else, right? With anything else, we know how to be like, okay, that's it, that's the end. But when it comes to food, we tell ourselves, like, I cheated, I may as well, like, that's it. The night is killed, or the Yom Tov is killed, or the weekend is killed. So instead, what the way you would reframe is, I will stop right now and I will minimize the damage now. Because obviously it's better to stop. Let's say you cheated at 2 o'clock, right? Or you ate something you shouldn't at 2 o'clock. 2:01 versus the next morning, you stop. And then, of course, there's so much less damage when you do it that way. Okay, the next sabotaging thought is, I have so much weight to lose, it's never going to happen anyway. It's almost like saying, like, what's it called? College is 4 years, and then the master's program is 2 years. Like, I may as well just, like, not start. Like, or, I don't know, having 7 kids, which I always dreamed of having, is a lot of kids, so I may as well not even have any. You realize when it comes to other things, we don't do that, right? So it's the same thing. Just focus on 5 pounds at a time, or 1 meal at a time, or 1 hour at a time. Okay, so a good example of this, another analogy, is when you look at a family picture, right? You see, like, let's say you see like an anniversary picture of a couple that's been married for 40 years, and their grandkids and their kids made them like a huge party, and you see all these children and all these grandchildren, and everybody's gathered around them. Like, you would never think to yourself, like, this all happened in a day, right? You realize that first came one kid, then came another kid, then another, and then maybe this one had a hard time with shidduchim, and this one had a hard time having children, and this one was the one that was always kicked out of school. Like, there's a whole story there. It's never like, oh, wow, magic, poof, all of a sudden they're married 40 years, here's all their kids and grandkids, right? So it's the same thing when you see someone that lost a lot of weight, even if they really did lose 100, 150 pounds, whatever. It started with 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then you know what? Somewhere along the line, they probably gained some and then had to lose it again, right? Or got thrown off and reroute.